Good, man. Well, you've been in this position before, man, but how does this feel compared to those past experiences? As sport continues to grow, things continue to develop. How does this feel compared to those experiences?
And obviously, as the sport grows, there's more media obligations and more attention to each time. But I guess people look for me to say something kind of special about it, but realistically, fights. I've never had a fight where, once I get past this one, I got the next one. I don't think you've ever heard any fighter really say that.
Absolutely. Is it any different at all because of the way this fight came about? I mean, was any disappointment in the fact that, I don't want to say that you backed into it, obviously you've had a lot of wins lately and were the next guy in line, but was there any frustration in the way things happened?
No, zero. I mean, obviously, I hope that, I always think about the sport first. Obviously, the situation now is true, but I was glad I was in good enough shape to take the opportunity. I think it would have been a lot worse had Dos Santos also had to be pulled from the card.
You talk a lot about wanting to become the first three-time heavyweight champion. Does that mean a lot to you going into this fight?
You know what? I mean, it's a thought that I definitely think about, and when my wife brings it up, I kind of nod. Like, that's pretty cool. But it was like one of those things, winning the fight is at the forefront of my mind. Everything afterwards will be stuff I'll think about on Sunday.
So many things have happened to you in your life, not only in the octagon, but off, and people have counted you out. It's got to be gratifying that you're still in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I constantly, for 10, 11 years now, I've always read that I shouldn't be in the UFC. And I have more wins than every heavyweight, most submissions. I'm one of the most well-rounded fighters right now. Fighting now for a title again, for an opportunity to be a third time running the tour. If I don't meet the bar, I'm kind of curious who is.
Yeah.
Frank, when the main event for this card became in doubt, it seemed like maybe for a couple of weeks you might have had a pretty good idea. On paper, you made the most sense as a replacement opponent even before it was announced. Did having that extra lead time, at least in theory, help you?
It did, kind of knowing. But I was fighting Velasquez before, so we already were preparing for a very arduous fight. So my cardio, I was already preparing for a 5-round fight. For the reason being, one, Velasquez is phenomenal gasting. He probably has the most dangerous weapon in his toolbox is the fact that he has a motor that never stops going. And amongst heavyweights, it's very rare. If any other heavyweight you can think of that has that moniker under his name. And second, that once I realized the title fight was on the same night as mine, I knew that I'd be the most likely to step up to play to fight for it if someone were to get injured. And let's face it, both guys are heavy-handed, strong guys, powerful, and they strike a lot. Those practices can be dangerous. There's cuts, twisted ankles, knees. How many fights have been pulled before in the past? I mean, I pay attention, and I don't think from emotion like some people do, and I think just statistics. And statistically speaking, most fights when you start a card are never the same card when the fights are actually done. So I just want to be in the best position possible to, even a week of, I could take up the matter.
At this point in your career, you've been on every side of this equation. You've held the belt, you've challenged for the belt, you've come back from injuries. Being put into a last-minute situation like this, can you see that at this point in your career, it's sort of easier to slide into this as opposed to maybe an earlier time in your career?
Oh, no, absolutely. I've been here, done this before. I'm prepared for all the things. We train fighting every day. I don't think really, the experience, the fact that, Dos Santos has only been in the ring in the last over a year for about 2 minutes, that's not going to hurt him because he trains it all the time. I think what is an advantage on my part is the fact that I'm used to, I've been around it, I know how to compartmentalize it and define it and know what to do with it and how to redirect my energy so that there's no distractions leading up to the fight. A lot of fighters, you hear in their interviews afterwards, this is a distraction. They don't sometimes cope with it as well as I do. My background and my history, I think that's one advantage I have over Dos Santos is that this is not new to me. I didn't grow up not around the spotlight. Born and raised in Vegas, I'm kind of used to the idea of cameras and glitz, and then being in the UFC now for almost 11 years, this isn't a new thing.
Lastly, on the Countdown show, Junior dos Santos seemed to question your manhood. Do you think something was lost in the translation, or did you take that seriously?
No, I didn't take it seriously. One, I assume that Dos Santos is a nice guy. We've all seen him talk, right, for the last couple of years. He never talks trash. Now he's trying to, he's the champ, but I think there's people around him going, okay, you got the fighting thing down. You got to sell fights more. Let's do the Brock type thing. Let's get more people interested. So you're the complete game player for the UFC. he's not very good at it. His first swing out the door, he fell on his face. He picked an area. I mean, I tell people, if you watch the movie Roxanne, with Steve Martin, he throws the darts, he says, I can come up with 20 better insults. I could have thought of money things better that would have came across with no idiosyncrasy debates and said, hey, this is something I call on Mir. The fact calling out my heart, it's like, well, I got hit by a car, lost the title, had some shitty fights, stayed in it, back against the wall. Dana will tell you himself, he had a conversation with me that he was basically going to let me go if I didn't win impressively against Hardon. Fought all the way back from that to submit Brock Lesnar, to take on Antonio Nogueira for the interim title. First guy to knock him out. Go on now to be 10, in my last 10 fights, I'm 8-2. I'm fighting him for the title. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm just stupid and I just don't know when to quit.
He's coming back from an injury, something that happened to you. So do you think that a lot of fighters bad days happens that he lost the title? Do you think that this leads to some advantage?
It really depends. I can't think too much into it because it could. I've had several knee surgeries. I've had it to where I walked out of the hospital and was skipping around, and my dad's looking at me like, "You should need the crutches." I'm like, "Dad, I feel great." I remember before the Roy fight, about 10 weeks out, I had to have my knee scoped again, another meniscus tear, and for about 3 weeks I didn't train. Forrest Griffin came in and we're rolling. We're against my wall, and he took me down, and I'm standing up on all four. I won't put my knee on the mat. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "It's so swollen. If I touch my knee down, the practice is over with." That was 3 weeks to recover before I could train hard. So you never know. Same surgery. We'll see the night of the fight. A couple leg kicks, stomp on it a little bit. If he's still walking on it, I guess it's good. If he starts limping, it's blood in the water.
When you talk about all that you've accomplished, all that you've been through, what does a successful title defense mean to you? I mean, there's a lot of talk about you being a 3-time champion, but is that something you feel like you need to accomplish before you walk away?
No, honestly, I'm very happy with where I am because, if you look at the titles of accomplishments, you're a journalist and all you're trying to win is a Pulitzer. That's kind of shallow. You don't really, you're not tackling the task at hand. Now, it's nice to put those certificates on the wall, the medal on the mantle, but at the end of the day, if you're improving and you feel good about the quality of work that you're putting out, then you have a happy life. You feel content. You know you're improving. You know you're striving. Not everybody gets the accolades and medals, but they put in the work and they do receive rewards from it. So as far as what I have to do in the sport, I never thought about becoming the most winning heavyweight of all time. One fight after another, one foot in front of the other, and things come to be and they come to fruition.
You think the longer this fight goes with Dos Santos, the better it is for you?
Yes, and I know people think that's a weird statement, being the fact that I'm not known for having cardio, but I've gone the distance with Roy, showed that, I didn't fool that. In fact, I picked up the guy several times and slammed him up on his back. The reason why I say that is all of Dos Santos' knockouts happen in the first round. He's a speed puncher. He gains his power because he moves so fast. Speed goes away. And you even watch the guys at 125. They're not as quick in the first round as in the fifth round as they were in the first. You slow down. And if he loses a little bit of speed, he's not a large guy. He's not walking around like Carwin and Lesnar. So he doesn't get the power just to throw a 2-inch uppercut and hurt somebody. His power comes from the velocity that he comes forward at. And I have to think that if the more we grapple around as the fight wears on, there's a reason why he has no second or third round knockouts that I'm aware of. The only fight that got stopped in the third round was Mirko. And Mirko claimed that he got poked in the eye or whatever it may be. All his knockouts come in the first round.